Okay, so we're going to get ready to get going here on day 2. We have a few other folks we're waiting for, but we know the traffic's probably lovely in the rain. So today we're going to have a number of panels that involve both Olin students and our faculty, as well as panels on security and mobility, and other panels on virtualization and cloud computing. So I think you'll find all those really interesting. But we're going to start off today with an inimitable fashion of Thornton May. So he's going to make sure that we're all awake within the next 10 minutes. So if you're not caffeinated, you will be by the time Thornton gets going. So with that, I'll turn it over to Thornton.
All right, thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Very good. All right. So you know is that this is an interactive session. So thank you so much for coming. I have historically. This is Olin Innovation Lab 3. So this is our third session. And historically, we always start out with a keynote. We start at the evening with a keynote. We had a brilliant keynote last night. Sanjay Kunga, who's the Chief Technology Officer at the amazing and like soon to have a much higher stock price multiple, folks at OnStar, right? So let's give it up for, thank you very much for sharing. A wonderful conversation, and it just a 15-year-old exercise that still is pregnant with opportunity. 15-year-old, so that was sort of a keynote, if you will. I mean, which is the classic, a thought leader talking to the group, as like. And I sort of would like to change the phrase, if you will. So this was initially titled a keynote, right? I'm calling this a crowd. All right, a crowd, because this is actually, we are going to collaborate this morning and open the conversation and set the tone for the panels and the intellectual exchange and problem solving that moves forward. A couple things is, I would like to begin by saying thank you. All right, the first thank you goes to the folks at the Olin College of Engineering. Basically, it's an amazing organization. I know that most of you are very, very familiar with it. It is a testimony to what vision and dreams and what people who care about the future can really do. It's a great organization. Joanne is a force of nature. I mean, she brought this stuff together, so it's wonderful to be part of that particular group. And they have actually been very, very generous in allowing us to create this shared space. My second thank you goes to the sponsors. All right, the sponsors, and these are amazing organizations. We have 3 organizations who actually make this a free shared space, right? And we have 3 amazing sponsors. Juniper, who you all know is in the network side, and Juniper, and our representatives from Juniper will be coming along shortly. But I will tell you that Juniper is definitely an organization on the rise. And I experienced this firsthand. One of my good friends is a CIO at the Miami Heat. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization. And they're sort of a brand in ascendancy, right? They did a total reconversion over to the Juniper network. And as you know, that these, networks are very, very, difficult, complex, culturally embedded things, and it was one of the most successful exercises ever. And as you know, the Miami Heat, tragically enough, are probably going to just have their way with the Celtics for many years to come. So they really do, and the network is at the center of what it is they do. And so Juniper did a great job there, and I do hope that you look at that particular case study. My next thank you goes to Digital River. And Digital River, do any of you know about Digital River? Show of hands. Anybody ever heard of Digital River? Nobody. And this is not Amazon. This is the other Digital River. This is actually one of the top e-commerce companies in the world. They do amazing things behind the curtains. And so I hope that you do a little study with those folks. And the final one goes to Avnet. And Avnet is basically a Fortune 134, the largest technology distributor in the world today. And they're doing amazing things. And John McGovern here is with us today. John, wave your hand right to everything. And they do an amazing thing, because many, many years ago, distribution, right? The middleman. People thought that they were going to be disintermediated and all this. They do amazing value-added work, basically in the technology space. Great people to talk to. So I want to thank them all. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. The final thank you, of course, goes to you, the participant. We know that we are presuming upon your scarcest and most valuable resource, your time. So we will do everything we can to make sure that you do get a very positive return on your investment. So that's going on. Here's where we're going to go this morning in the Crowdnote. My objective this morning is to engage this special group, this gang of 35, if you will, all right, basically in a series of conversations designed to increase our collective innovation knowledge set. And let me add some specificity to this. Self-knowledge, our knowledge of ourselves as innovators. other knowledge, how other people, by other people I mean other people in the enterprise, but other people more in society in general, in society, and in the various institutions of society, the regulatory institutions, the governmental institutions, the financing institutions, basically how they are thinking about innovation. Environmental knowledge, sense making, what is going on out there? We're going to talk about the moment in history, the moment in time, where we're living. And then movement knowledge. I mean, where are we going? Is innovation today the same as innovation was 10 years ago or 5 years ago? And will it be the same in the future? And finally, value knowledge, innovation. Where is there money to be made and mission value to be delivered? So these are the five. As we sculpted our panels, as we curated the audience, this is where we're trying to get to. And we're going to be filling in these knowledge buckets, if you will, as we go along. And then with regards to the specific agenda items today, as you look at your agendas, basically mobility, e-commerce, content management, also location-based services, virtualization, cloud, and security, we're going to be looking at these specific innovation opportunities and answering these 4 questions. I actually call these, IT's 4 new no's. Where are we? Where do we want to go? What are our options strategically? How do we get there? What are our options tactically? And that is a codependent, if you will, set of interrogatives. And finally, how do we convince the enterprise to make the trip? So those are the things that those informed our curriculum design or our experience design today, that type of stuff. So the research tells us, as you look at it, if you do literature research, if you do door-to-door survey research, is that successful innovators are uber knowers. All right, and this is one I want to expand our vocabulary, if you will, of like understanding. This is a great word. I don't know if there are any social scientists in the room. This one, and my German is very, very verstehen, which is it's understanding on steroids, all right, type of thing, And then there's this concept of the zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, the spirit characteristic of an age or generation, and Weltanschauung. Just use that at a bar. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, right? Is this idea of a comprehensive view of the world and human life. Successful innovators need to know this. We were talking earlier about the power of context. So we need to know this. So we're going to be discussing some of that. But it's not about me. This is a crowd note. This is about you. So I'd like us to engage ourselves, interfacing with other carbon-based life forms. Take a couple minutes and actually think about which historical moment most closely resembles the situation you find yourself in today. All right? Do you understand that exercise? All right, just thinking, it could be whatever it is, work among yourselves, and then we'll report that. You're going to feel for the gestalt, the zeitgeist, or the Weltanschauung of the moment. So work among yourselves. Go for it. Oh, this sucks. It's school. Yeah, wait, I'm going to talk to you guys, right?
Usually transition. Maybe that's true in any generation of data, but where they are in children.
Transitional light, what would be another? Walking around.
I expected this understanding what constitutes knowledge. We were talking earlier with the conversation about the conventional understanding of knowledge is static, it doesn't change. It's built on the notion of conveying that knowledge to students with the understanding that it's an investment technology. I think our understanding now is very contextualized, and as a result, it changes. It has to do
when you were in the restaurant, that's true.
I didn't know she was living in the dark ages.
Learning how to learn.
Very good. I'm in sales. I can the tactical stuff here. I can send it out. Even think about 25 years ago, I would have to make sure that the person I was in general was going to actually see there.
Maybe it's more than a focus on headquarters.
You have the I met there's a lot of traffic. Escalator over at the airport. I've done it.
You're talking about how knowledge is very particular, like implications for the university. Right. It really does emphasize it. How connected we are, how mobile. Because mobile knowledge, I mean, there's another, if you put those things together.
Right. And accessibility, or even at the persuasiveness.
Yeah, those things are connected. They're never, and now you can be connected on there.
So actually, so you're saying it is like, so with regard to that connection thing, I mean, this is unprecedented.
So the context for learning about products, and also scale. I mean, you're small context and you've got, university levels.
What do you think about the productivity of every person that's in the field? If you look at
I like your point there, whether it's true or not, or whether it's a point or not.
Well, no, I mean, if you want to make a change, I read a whole bunch of,
I can't not imagine there are 25 different
Sunday mornings, kids were screaming, Kim was in.
I've never used it. I mean, I have. It speeds up everything. The business transaction is now becoming virtual.
And what you mean, we had virtuality experience.
Maybe like the early 19th century, because you had the Enlightenment, which kind of blew apart, theoretically blew apart a lot of the old ways of doing things. But it took several decades for that to sort of filter its way into society and political
Prosperity and mobility, communication technology.
Technology is enabling business. My stepdaughter, she buys went to the physical school. It was for they got whatever. UPS and FedEx and businesses.
You're not constrained by local business.
Imagine being a business without an e-commerce.
Or you're very, very
Or you're long behind. You sell flowers. Yeah. You don't really buy
Let's start the day today. 476.
Why should be I went to see Imperial. Look at Samsung.
Get that list right there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, pencils down, pencils down, pencils down. Thank you for that. I did a quick visit to 3 groups, and I found a totally different, again, from instructional design, I ask questions, and you expect something, and you don't get what you expected back. So it's very, very interesting. But I'm going to go back to, let's see now, I'm going to go to this group, this Mensa group back here, like Bill and your group. What did you guys come up? Oh, you still,
wireless password.
We're doing extracurricular. They're doing extracurricular stuff. You're going to share with the group. Here we go. He now just shared the launch code.
I'm ready to share.
Right.
So we're somewhere between the Renaissance. Now I think we're somewhere between the telegraph and the railroad. I think what we saw was that sort of the democratization of information we have today. Where there is the barrier, no more barriers to things, and the globalization. that, when you were in the 1800s, the telegraph allowed information which would have taken days or weeks to go from, Pony Express or the packet ships to, instantaneous through the telegraph. But then there's the whole idea of, you bribe the telegraph operator to get information, cut the wires, denial of service. So I think there were some of those aspects. What else did I miss?
So I like if I compare. So you said the one interesting thing you said was basically we are in a historical analog. You said the Renaissance and when the telegraph, because what you're saying is there are no more barriers. And when you say no more barriers to knowledge, really no more barriers, if I can expand, no more barriers to anything, right? Because there used to be a class society, like there were things you could know. And actually, if you go back to the Middle Ages and before, if you go back to the Middle Ages and before, there was the issue of, only certain classes could own certain types of clothes and so all that type of stuff. So very, very interesting. That was great. Okay, what did other groups come up? Kevin, what did your group come up with? And here let me get you some mics. Do you have mics back there or not?
Kevin has a mic.
All right, Kevin, you got a mic? And make sure it's on. And please introduce yourself, Kevin. Oh, yes, there we go. Very good, very good. You see, Kevin used to be a senior executive. You see, he used to be a CIO, and he learned that all-important career survival thing of death by delegation. There you go. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Rachel Stedman. I'm a senior here at Olin College. And we talked about similar dropping of barriers, but we spoke about it in terms of the Roman period, where they created roads and kind of unified an area and opened it up to more communication, and in that sense created kind of a time where there was more people were more devoted to kind of intellectual thinking rather than just feeding themselves, and so we're kind of in that time where internet has and communication has opened up across the entire world, and we're all kind of thinking about things together.
Nice. Nicely done. All right, Joanne, what did your group come up with?
So we talked about context in terms of sort of the printing press, I guess, and communication as well. So we have a similar theme going across all the groups. So essentially we talked about the fact that now there are not those barriers. So between blogs and wikis and Twitter and all the kinds of tools that are out there, you now have a different kind of literacy that's required. And so there's so much information, the skill set of being able to figure out which information is valid. I think Rob talked about, when you had a book that was published, there were certain assumptions you could make about the process of the book being published and the information in the book. That's not necessarily true anymore. And so being able to develop that skill set, and then just the whole skill set of communication and how that's changing for students. Perhaps it's less required to have face-to-face meetings because video is something they're very comfortable with, and that works really well, where some of the rest of us probably a little more comfortable with face-to-face, and there are limitations to all those shortcuts. In Judy's case, she pointed out her kids are a lot closer because they can communicate that way, but there's also in the business world a lot more space for misinterpretation. So this whole kind of communication skill set, how is it going to change, how it's changing now, and exactly what types of skills we need to figure out what is being communicated so that we can have the correct responses.
John, your group, what did you guys come up with? And very good, very good microphone discipline over there. Very good.
Well, it's interesting, building on both of those groups, and we came up with our idea first, but we thought in a focused technical context, it feels like 1994 all over again. With the birth of browser wars, you go to any Enterprise 2.0 conference and you got 50 people all pitching the exact same thing. So it's kind of like the birth of the internet, the browser wars, and now we think there's going to be a period of consolidation. There'll be some new killer apps that are emerging, and who knows what the exact time frame is going to be. But then we took a look at your question again and thought, okay, in a larger macro context, we also thought about the Roman Empire before 76. So it's right before the fall. And if you think about the larger global context, the economy's on the skids, you got barbarians at the gates, all kinds of turmoil and chaos, and we can either progress or decline. So
very good. So we can either say, "Oh, hello, you're Visigoth. You're looking pretty good these days, right?" Very good. No, but so right before the fall, very good. Now I know this group was working with only 2 people, but Bill, what did you guys come up with?
Actually, we had Bill Seibel. Actually, we had the same thing, the fall of the Roman Empire in 476.
We had it first, though.
Yeah, we had it first. And to add to that reason, Friedman had just written something about people thinking now as part of the cause of the fall was a focus on inward security and a lack of taking risk, and it reflected itself in lack of business risk, lack of political risk. And then added to that, monetary problems, rise of Islam at that time, Christianity, and imperial incompetence was the other reason.
Very nice. So some cautionary warnings. Very, very nice. But the whole idea is like as the fall of lessons from the fall of Rome is that one of the precipitating was that they were so focused on internal security that internal security actually it paradoxically went away. Right. So very, very nice. Now who did I miss? Oh, here we go, the Mensa gang. Here we go. All right.
All right, we also had the printing press. I guess the note I can add to that is one of the pieces first published on the printing press was pornography. So there's an interesting parallel to today in the internet. Although we didn't discuss that in our group.
So life may be ending, but there will be porn. All right, there we go. All right.
And the Industrial Revolution with the technology and the way people are working completely changing. And then also more recent history, the OS2 platform wars, the Mac. We're having the platform wars again, different technology doing different things. We're trying to do the same thing. I have my spread here, my Google, my PC, my iPad all in front of me doing different things. And so in that sense, we're right back to the 60s. Is that the right decade? Early 70s.
Good
I was a
job.
little tight back then.
So we're still wrestling with technology choice and platform issues, right? So even though we say this is not an unprecedented point in time with regards to choice, it's different. Right? So nicely done. Is it so? There were your report backs. What patterns or trends did you perceive in your responses? This was admittedly quick, and it's just an opener, get our minds going. Yes, sir. Oh, you guys didn't get to talk. Oh, sorry. So here, wait. That's the problem of hanging out with the professor. That's what happens. All right, good. All right. So what did we talk? What did we get?
Is this on?
Yeah, I think.
Hello?
There you go.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, our historical analogy was with the first half of the 19th century, which is, others have alluded to this as well, but the idea being that, the Enlightenment had come and sort of instituted scientific method as a primary way of making new discoveries, but at that time it hadn't yet filtered into society and actually started to make its way into technology. But in the first half of the 19th century, that started to happen with steam and telegraph and inventions and the transatlantic cable and all these kind of things. So we did our work sort of in terms of themes that are paralleling those two times. So there was an increasing connectivity and accessibility. The context for learning is much broader now. You make changes on the fly. Technology is enabling business and new opportunities, not constrained by local availability. So there's parallel for the globalization that would have started happening at that time, and the intense shortness of the product life cycle. So did I miss anything?
Nice, very nice, very nice. So no, we all got that. That was great. All right, so we got that. So now, what patterns from all of these groups were there? What was similar in our responses and what was different?
Recognition of a paradigm shift.
Nice. Recognition of a paradigm, like the fact that we are actually changing, right? What was before you fundamentally different, right? Very, very nice. What else?
Just about everybody mentioned technological elements.
Mm-hmm. Right. It was similar to again, these technologies are changing what is possible and what actually happens in society, in commerce, in education, in government. Very good, very good. Those have implications for us. They're both risk implications and also innovative or entrepreneurial opportunity implications. Very nice. What else? Anything?
But also the acceleration in the change.
Right. And the exchange is accelerating, right? Exactly. It used to be, we once every century. Very good, very good. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Good. No, you guys did. This is just to get the minds going in the morning type of thing. Were the moments that were they generally positive or negative? sort of getting a feel for the time. Were they pretty upbeat? I mean, end of Rome. Like, look, the Visigoths, cool. All right, you know. I mean, were they generally positive or negative? What do you think? It was mixed, or like perhaps our society is like uniquely ambiguous, right? You know, or the two sides. I mean, change can be good or change can be bad, type of stuff. You know, or perhaps the jury is still out. I mean, is that fair? Is that yeah. I thought there was a little darkness to this group over here. We might need some more caffeine over here. Go ahead.
Remember, we said it was like before the Roman Empire collapsed, but it was before. We still have a chance to change.
Right. That's good. Oh, good. I know because you are at them. Yes, sir.
It's also, I think, true that the witnesses to history are not necessarily the best evaluators of the importance of that history, right?
We are exactly. We are right, and that's where perspective becomes critically important, type of stuff. I mean, but it is. I do. This is. You're much. I've done this question, all right, around the world, all right, because I really wanted to get my head into what people are thinking, and there is a general agreement that, you know, how a group or population sees the future really does shape events. This mass thinking type of thing, not group think, but mass thinking. To see what our world might be like tomorrow, next year, or next decade, we need to spend time and money investigating social mood. Because social mood creates the context in which our investments and our technologies are instantiated. So this is just an idea for keeping this, because we are finding that. We are finding that. And so here, I went to CIOs, who are a uniquely dark and twisted group of people, all right, you know, but I love them, I'm a groupie, and so I asked them, I said, I go door to, I did this in Berlin, I did this in Hong Kong, I'm going to do this in in Athens on Thursday, all over the world and throughout, you know, and then with Avnet on 60 cities, you know, been asking these questions. And I said, which historical moment most closely resembles the situation you find yourself in today? And the deeper thinking ones say, FDR, the day after Pearl Harbor. That's a magic moment, you know. I mean, you know, Winston Churchill, day 30 of the Blitz. Oh, here they come again, all right? Emperor Hirohito, the day after Hiroshima, right, you know? Christopher Columbus, the day after he got the green light from Isabella. Gonna need some boats, type of thing, you know? And then Lewis and Clark, day 400 of their trip, right? You know, where the hell are we? And then Joan of Arc at the stake. What's that I smell? Cooking, you know? I mean, no, because you were ambiguous, right? They were very, in most cases, they were very, very dark. All right, you know, so you can tell that this is, you know, so we've got to help our CIO brethren, like, you know, move forward type of stuff. That's going on. But the one very, very interesting one, and we did this was actually in Phoenix, and there were 150 award-winning CIOs. I mean, the top of the pile. And this one gentleman said, the historical is the Civil War. I go, what do you mean the Civil War? He says, he said, and he actually used Gettysburg. Because he used the phrase, he says, we are at a turning point. Truly at a turning point. And he said, and such deep thinking came out. I was just amazed. I mean, because it is just an opening question, right? He says, the problem is organizations are at war against themselves. Because there are in any organization, or there are the champions of the now. And there are the proponents of the next. All right, because the Civil War, as you remember, tragedy, 600,000. You know, was it how many people died? I mean, was it 6 million or something like that? I mean, it was just amazing amount of people like passed away, and it was just. But the country was at war with itself, and sadly, in this innovation space, we frequently find the CIO bumps into this is that they are at war with the powers of change are at war with the powers of the status quo. And how do we, I think successful innovation and entrepreneurship and actually change and leadership involves how do we migrate that from a destructive element to a constructive element? So that's going on. And then, you know, then there are all kinds of, and so here's a question I want to ask you, because I really think that labeling an age becomes critically important. What should we call the era, the economy, the society, the place and time we are about to enter? What should we call that? Let's try and let's work among yourselves for a couple minutes. I mean, what are we going to call that? And if it comes out really, really good, we have some reporters in the room and they're going to tell you, and you'll get credit for it. But what should we call it? Work among yourselves. Real quick.
just thinking about that.
What's regarding the mobile economy?
The word that comes to mind they talk about barriers down.
All right, pencils down, pencils down. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. All right, let's see now. Joanne. All right, pencils down, pencils down. All right, Joanne, we're going to come to your group. What did your group come up with? All right, we'll come back to you guys. This group, Young, what did you the dark group, the dark side, what did you guys
We
come
were
up with?
more positive this time.
All right, good.
Yeah. So we came up with the global collaboration economy.
Oh, did you guys hear that? The global collaboration economy. All right, nice. Round of applause. Very nicely done. The GEC, GEC, global. The GCE, the GC. Very good. GCE with the BCE and all that. Very good. So global collaboration economy.
Do you know how we got to that?
No, how?
Because we were battling between whether it's global or whether it's collaboration.
Right.
So we made a compromise.
That's good. And I actually think from that compromise, there's knowledge in that compromise because it is cumulative, right? Because it's and, right? It's not an or. It's like you've got to have quality or quickness, or quality or cheapness. You got to have and, right? So it's going to be global, and it's very good, and clever. Now, Kevin, what did you?
We got to the global part, and then we got to the social networking part, but we never put the two together. So.
Okay. There you go. It's good. Well, we're great on a curve.
So ours was an or.
There you go. That's good. All right. And
we came up with a seamless economy.
Nice, seamless economy. Seamless. That's very good. Because we really are. I mean, there are no boundaries, or in reality, there are no real boundaries. There are only perceptual boundaries. Very, very good. All right, let's come over here. Like Bill. What did your gang come up with?
John said Rome 2.0.
Rome 2, good. Rome 2.0. All right. Toga. All right, good. All right, Rome 2.0. That's good.
We also, we were all, more seriously, we were trying to figure out sort of the mobile device, putting a tagline on that, mobile economy, I guess.
Right. Mobile economy, good, because we're trying to label that. Very good. All right, in this group, what did you guys come up with?
Off the cuff. I mean, I have to say it's the flattening of
Oh,
infatuation, really.
this is an undergraduate course.
Okay.
You heard it here first. The flattening of I'll buy a vowel. What do you mean? Wait. Are we back to porn here?
We have a new version.
A new version.
Infatuation.
Oh, infatuation. I have once again lost control. Very good. All right, no, what did you guys come up with? Come on, we've got to have a librarian come and save us, tone us up.
What did we get?
We got nothing. I love that.
We got half of it.
All right.
And then we still on the other half. The first half was the age of access.
Right.
Then the corresponding thing is that with everybody having access and everybody creating everything, it's chaos.
Right.
You evaluate that or
Right.
filter that.
Right.
They stage a new kinds of filters.
Right.
But
Well, I like that. No, but I think you're really onto something. Because it is the age of access, right? But then it's a question mark. What are we going to do with this access? Which is why we're having this innovation question, right? Because we have built these roads, right? But what can you do with these roads? What can we do with all this information? You want to jump in? I can tell Ed from Digital. He's ready, baby. He is ready. Go, baby.
Well, no, going to the world is flat by Friedman's book, but it's. I was just mentioning that my daughter has 400 friends on Facebook. I only had friends when I was in 8th grade of people in my class. So I mean, it's crazy, and plus, you have the business component of it, but it's connectivity. It's how do you manage that?
Because the question, the jury is still out, is so we've got this situation, this unambiguous of connectivity, of act, because you're connected to all the knowledge in the world, right? And you can, and we haven't even touched on the mobility thing. You can take it anywhere in the world. But before I finish up here, I'm going to come back to you guys, and let you guys, having seen all of the wisdom of your peers, you guys want to weigh in here? No. Good. That's good. That's a good thing.
One of the things that we haven't quite heard yet is there's something going on too in terms of the power of the masses, both from a commercial perspective and a political perspective. The phenomenon that brought Obama to power could take him right back down. That companies come and go based on perceptions of millions of people all at once, immediately known to everybody else, which is unique.
Very good, very good. So, the fact that these forces of change are very, very powerful and very, very fickle, right? So very good stuff, good stuff. So great. So what should we call it? Well, anyway, there are the report backs. I mean, any patterns or trends? I think one of the patterns, I mean, if I could jump in here and use, if you will, like moderators, like privilege, is like, I don't think we've labeled it yet, have we? But there is an opportunity there, and that's going on. And so with patterns of trend, what do everybody say? Well, a couple of things, like we've got to label the era. I mean, one of the part of leadership is creating context, and labeling becomes critically important. Like all these, Shakespeare, when he was in his dark period, and then he actually wrote all the happy plays at one time, and of course, this guy had his like blue period. And of course, I'm so pleased to say that my friends, the CIOs, are now emerging from the we suck less era. I mean, well, no, really, so we're migrating forward on that type of thing, And then here is, I don't know if you follow this type of thing, in Spain, because, you've got to be global in your perspective, they are calling the post-meltdown era the cuando pensábamos que éramos ricos, the time when we thought we were rich. All right, because there was this bubble mentality, and now it's gone, right? Because they're very dark, and they used to set people on fire, so we'll move forward. All right, and here's like our buddy Hal Varian, he's a colleague of mine, we just teach together at Berkeley. He says, we're in the middle of a period that I refer to as a period of combinatorial innovation. Combinatorial, it's almost like that thing you guys came up with, it's like, so what does that mean? So he goes on to say, if you look historically, you'll find periods in history where there would be the availability of different component parts that innovators could combine or recombine to create new inventions. So, and you picked up on that. All your responses, basically, the access, the mobility, the devices, all that type of stuff, the OnStars, right? All those parts are there to create new inventions, new things. In the 1800s, it was interchangeable parts. In 20, it was electronics. In the 70s, it was integrated circuits. Now it's what we're looking for in mobility and the devices and the databases and the search engines, right? So that's going on. And he says, if you look at the 1920s, the technological question then was, how can we build a business model around broadcast radio? In the mid-90s, how can we build a business model around the internet? Now the question is, as we're looking at this new platform, what business model, if we label this X, I don't know whether we're calling it mobility or access, or what is the business model for that age? So we're sneaking up on that question, type of thing. But recessions are good for innovation. All right? Oh, here, I got to show you. Excuse me, this is the build. And this comes from our friends at Cognizant and Malcolm Frank, there is actually a direct one-to-one correlation with regards to because change is hard, but actually fundamental innovation. I'm sorry, fundamental innovation, thank you. All right, never mind, thank you, Joanne. All right, fundamental innovation, and you see this type of thing. So what comes next? What comes next? The internet, PC, and then we got, so, and here at Macro, I'm sorry you can't see around, but P&G, IBM, General Motors, Microsoft, we're all founded during periods of economic uncertainty. So we are at that moment. That's why this is the time. This is the time when really big things are going to happen, type of thing. And here, the power of labor, I really want to drive this home, is Clinton basically desperately wanted a pithy slogan to encapsulate his foreign policy, but nothing worked. Post-Cold War era was uninspiring because, it's the information age and the knowledge age. Well, okay, it's been that forever. What is it really, right? Democratic enlargement sounded like an unwelcome medical condition, Age of Hope was like too much of a New Age album, We can litanize and analyze all we want, but until people can say it in a phrase, we're sunk. And he yelled this at his group. Right? So I think, what are we going to call this? Even if it's just within our group or so, what are we going to call this? So we need that label. And then, but every magazine, every talk show host, every CEO, senior government official, all those guys, right? Even the inventor of the internet, right? They're all talking about innovation, right? They're all talking. Nation Call, they are all talking about innovation. So you're in the right space. And research findings, basically tell us that a big part of your future career success will hinge upon your ability to create environments where innovation can happen. All right? So given that fact, it stands to reason that this guy, that Nicholas Carr, who's always coming in, and he always plays with the Uber carpetbagger, Nicholas Carr, and carpetbagger being a person who basically walks from one place where there is no money to another place where there is. So innovation is where the money is. So he's going to vote in here. All right, so here he comes. So here's Nick. Basically, is there such a thing as too much innovation? He says companies need to be prudent, even conservative, in where and how much they encourage innovation. All right, we'll take that as an insight. That's good. That's an insight. All right, and then here's Carly, basically he's going on all kinds of videos. She says, at HP, and I put this in there just for you, John, it's like, we make over 3 new product announcements a day. Can you remember them? Our customers can't. All right, so they're not getting, if there's product innovation there, it's not generating any money for it. And then here's Carr again. He says, innovation isn't free. Innovation actually is quite expensive and quite risky. Let's open that up to the audience, the plenary. Right? Do you agree? Yeah, jump in. No, sir, you're, Mr. Lassiter, you agree. Thanks for grabbing that. Come on in, guys. Lots of room.
So I do agree. So innovation is not free. It requires human and capital and managerial resources.
Right.
So in my team, we have a concept of focused innovation.
Very good.
Right. So innovation that we can somehow see a connection to the measures by which we look at the value we're creating. Mm-hmm. And so as long as we're innovating along those measures, we take a thoughtful and deliberate capital budgeting approach to innovation.
Right. So I love that. So actually, that might be a label we would think about using. If I could borrow that, focused innovation, the age of focused innovation. Because there's this misunderstanding or this misrepresentation of innovation as an epiphany or as a lightning strike, which is why I had that particular visual up there, right? So there's that going on. Now do you think it's quite expensive? Dick, you want?
Yeah, I don't know that it can be if you just leave it unbridled. Right. I think the key is to somehow have some guardrails where the innovation takes place, where you can channel it. Right. And one of the things that we do is we have an innovation fund, and we encourage people to come forward with different ideas. And we have an innovation fund board. These are the people that will select which projects or ideas will get funded. And this way we can channel it and use it positively, but just not let 1,000 flowers bloom everywhere in the organization.
Right. Good. Okay, good. So we're tightening up our understanding of this. Very, very good. And risky. All right. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. Sanjay.
Just wanted to add, we also need, I think, have to be careful how we define innovation. There's a creativity aspect of innovation, and that we can say is not as expensive because that is, we can always say that that's somebody gets a creative idea, that's an idea. But then if we say innovation is really creativity brought to market and successfully brought to market, that does take effort. There is an effort, money, investment required to take the creative ideas and really bring it to market. Right. So it can be expensive.
So it can be expensive. No, what I want to go to is really defining our terms, if you will. All right, because I think there's invention and innovation are not synonyms. And like Bill made mention this is this is Laverne Council. She's a CIO at Johnson & Johnson, a good friend of mine, and she's the person from whom I extracted, stole, repurposed this particular insight. She says, Thornton, innovation is not invention. Invention is the conversion of cash into ideas. Innovation is the conversion of ideas into cash. So I want to, because people say, well, it's a bad economy, or like we're doing, we can't innovate. No. A bad economy is when you should innovate. And this is why the empirical evidence supports this, is that innovation, new thinking actually happens in a bad economy, because one of the ultimate catalysts to innovation, or doing new things that make you money, is the withdrawal of resource, not the addition of resource, right? It's constraint-based innovation, or constraint-based problem solving, right? Which is really what innovation is, right? So I want to get, because there's this misconception on the part of many people that somehow, we're going to work and we're going to sit there, we're going to have foosball, we're going to have colored, we're going to do the IDEO, like happy use of pharmaceuticals and come up with innovation. That's not, this is real work. I mean, this is real work. So that's going on. So, and here's Michael Schrage. You remember he was our opener at basically our first Olin Innovation Lab. I think innovation is the conversion of novelty to value. Something that actually, it can be mission value if you're a public sector organization. It can basically be bottom line value if you're an enterprise. I mean, but this is about money. This is not, just about ideas. And so, and this is where I want to, I'm obligated to do a little spanking of Nicholas Carr. It's like, you need to bring the same kind of discipline to deciding where you innovate as you bring to any kind of management question. Well, duh. Okay, that makes sense. All right, that's good, And then here's double duh. You want to make sure that you innovate in those few areas where innovation can really pay off. Gee, such quality of thought should not go unrewarded there, Mr. Carr, and create a competitive and not innovate in other areas where it won't pay off. They pay him for this stuff. I mean, and then finally he says you have to connect your innovation initiatives and your innovation investments to your broader business strategy. he's a clever devil, isn't he? And you look at those areas where you're going to get or think you can get a competitive advantage. So yes, it does have to be a managed, and as Mr. Lassiter, Professor Lassiter basically tells us, it's focused. It's got to be focused. So we know that. But he does say, and this is where it's powerful. And this is, I want to be balanced. This is sort of a growth area for me. All right, Nicholas is actually talking about, and you can read this article in the Wall Street Journal. It's basically you can innovate anywhere. So Dell chooses to innovate not necessarily in their product. They choose to innovate, if you will, in their process and that type of, and how they drive their costs out. Whereas Apple is on the other end and they innovate on their product. So you can innovate. You get to choose where you innovate. You get to choose where you want to make value. And that may be a function of the culture and that type of stuff. And perhaps in our conversations as we move forward today, we can elaborate on how do you make that choice that gives you the best return on your innovation effort type of thing. And then being first doesn't necessarily guarantee success. And this comes from Nick. It's like the studies that I've seen indicate that it's rarely the first mover into a market who ends up winning the market. It's interesting. I was talking to the guys who all the billionaires who make who tend to be very good donors to large universities. But the fellows who run all the malls, build the developers and all that. It's typically the third guy who owns it who makes money on it. Right? So maybe it's the third person who does the innovation who makes money on it. But think of the iPod, but in fact, when the iPod came along, there were already MP3 players and there were already lots of digital. So being first doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be, yes, sir.
So is there a difference? Is there a difference between the innovation that an individual enterprise does and the innovation that you want to see broadly across society? So if every enterprise is doing focused innovation, do we lose as a society some of that chaotic innovation which causes major sea change in the direction we're going?
I think that's a great question, and I think that's one of the questions we're asking now, is particularly in our government, because we know the internet was sort of did the internet come to be as a focused innovation or an unfocused development project? In your opinion?
Unfocused.
Okay.
I mean, for those of us who were around at that time, there were very limited goals for the ARPANET and connecting a few computers together, and I don't think there was anyone, maybe some science fiction writers, who really foresaw the direction we would end up.
All right. But it wasn't. Was it totally unfocused, or was it because there was? Perhaps this is urban legend, but my understanding is there was a general idea that some of the development was to have a nuclear-proof way of communicating, right? So they're at a broad, undecimal point. It was little f focus versus big F focus type of thing. So as long as it's somewhere in the same realm. But what we're getting to is the role of government may be to fund these broader, little f focused, if you will, research project, and the role of the businesses are actually to drive it to the bottom line. Because the big labs are no longer, GE and everybody, you had Procter & Gamble, all this other type of stuff, and HP, particularly HP, right? They used to just let their researchers do whatever they want. And when Mark Hurd was there, they drove them down to a little more specificity. That's a great question. Would anybody like to weigh in? Mr. Lassiter, please.
Yeah, in agreeing with that, I think another way of looking at it is the role of government may be to help fund changes or evolution of core shared infrastructure.
Right.
Right. And then let industry seize that infrastructure and really turn it into value. So
broadband and the opportunity, the generative, if you will, platforms. Nice. Very, very nice. Nice job. Nice. Good questions. Great. This is just, so imitate, we'll move forward. And then, we've been going through this. The reason we talk about these eras is that, and this comes from my colleague, Bruce Rogo, he says that in each era, as we move forward, and by the way, the research I've done in the book called The New No shows that every 5 years, it's going to be a fundamental redo, a reboot, all right? So it's a new era every 5 years. And that actually is validated by Jeffrey Moore, who basically says that I said, I come on up with this number that every 5 years we really have to change everything. He says, that's about right, because every 5 years I find that I have to write a new book. So that's convergent validity. Found that. So that's from Jeffrey Moore, my good friend. But anyway, but the argument is this comes from Bruce Rogo, who's a friend of Olin and a friend of Babson, a great human being. He talks about every era has different business models, different IT management paradigms, different IT expectations. They have different winning vendors, IT skills and IT business relationships. So we do have to be aware of this, and I sort of led the witness again. Are we in the innovation age, moving to the focused innovation age, perhaps? know, and so and there's this question, the Microsoft question is can you switch jump eras? If you were the best in one era, can you be the best in another era? And that is a question we're wrestling through. And the thing is, these technologies never really disappear. Sorry, I make a better door, no window, don't I? So these technologies never really disappear, and so that's going on. But and you go through these learning curves. And so is Google like the de facto winner? Or what's going on? Or who is next? Or we're next? I hope the people in the room are next. Anyway, I'm just about finished. So for the last 2 years, I've been on a journey. And in every major geographical market, actually that's not true, I did not go to Antarctica, but all the rest I did. In every vertical market, basically that is 20 vertical markets, and at every level of the enterprise, from the boardroom to the mailroom, I've been asking this question, what are you doing to prepare for what comes next? Because we know it's going to be different. We know there's going to be more access. We know there's going to be more connectivity. We know there's going to be more mobility. What are you going to do? So I asked my students, basically, find me an exemplar, a role model from history, right? Basically, who tells us how to deal with a new world. And of course, because the students abbreviate their workload, and the folks at The Ohio State University always come up with Christopher Columbus as a new world guy. So do you think Christopher Columbus is a good planning role model for getting to IT's next new world? No, you're so right. This is a good group. And let me share with you. It's what was Columbus's mission? No, because you talk about in general. You need something. What was his focus? So there was a general, and so what was the SLA of the project called Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, right? Because this is what we got. Innovation is not going to have that type of decimal point precision, right? What was that SLA? Well, here is what the SLA. This is actually from Isabella, from the thing. She says, as our captain of the Seine, we would like you to head towards certain regions of the ocean sea to perform certain things for our service. That would kind of be, that's kind of like the mandate many CIOs are getting from their bosses today. Do good and be cheap and do it fast, right? So they're not overly specifying the endpoint, but so you got that. By the way, you can have copies of these slides. The folks at Olin would be delighted to get you to you, so you don't get carpal tunnel syndrome on. So that's going on. But here's the thing. There actually were 6 SLAs for this trip, for Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. The first one was, you're going to go over there and you're going to convert them, right? So was he prepared to convert them? Well, how many priests did Chris have on his boat? 0. Okay, very good. All right. So he says, okay, not only are you going to convert them, you're going to go over there, you're going to find the princes and potentates, and you're going to build alliances. You're going to be a diplomat. How many diplomats did Chris have on his boats? 0. All right, good. All right. And then he said, and those people who don't convert and don't choose to be our allies, we're going to conquer them. Sort of like an American foreign policy type of orientation. So how many soldiers did he have in his boat? Many. 0. Not a one. Not a one. Not a soldier. Not one. Not one. Check it out. They were thugs and sailors, but they were not soldiers. There was thugs and sailors. 0. So this looks like basically a CIO ERP thing. So far he's 0 for 3, right? He knows where he's going. He knows what he's got to do. He's got nobody. But wait, there's more. There's more. All right. Here's our buddy Chris. It was supposed to be sort of like, oh, and by the way, we like animals. We want you to do the Darwin thing, right? How many naturalists did he have on the boat? 0. I don't even think any of the sailors like pets or animals. That was it. And then he said, although they was charged with making a full report upon their return, who was the storyteller or who was the illustrator? 0. So way to go, Chris. Okay, so although according to the Crown agreements, the voyage was to acquire pearls, precious stones, gold, and silver, because it's all about the money. Even back then, it's all about the money. We want to innovate. Why? You think it's a slow day? Let's do some innovation. No, they want the money, right? It says how many jewelers were on board? How many metallurgists or miners? 0, 0, 0, right? So this guy was 0 for 6 being prepared for the world he's heading towards. So as you guys already saw, what was Columbus's plan? Just sail. This is my setup for the adults who will follow me, right? On time. It's basically this whole idea. What is our plan for innovation? What is our plan for innovation? Well, just innovate. Just sail, right? So we're going to tighten that up, and throughout our discussions today, we're going to elaborate on those. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much, and thank you for coming. Round of applause. There we go. Woo-hoo. And now Joanne is going to transition to our next substance-rich panel.